Democrats are renewing their comparisons of the Trump administration to Hitler and Nazi Germany. During a congressional hearing with the Democratic governors of 3 sanctuary states, Republicans and Democrats debated whether that rhetoric is appropriate. Democrats have either called or compared President Trump and his supporters to Nazis for years, going back to his first administration. That trend began again in May when Minnesota Governor Tim Walz compared Immigrations and Customs Enforcement to the Gestapo, the Nazis' political police force.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense. Not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye. Just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
The Gestapo, whose official German name translates to Secret State Police, had the power to be the judge, jury, and executioner. It helped track, find, and kill Jews during the Holocaust. Democrats on the Oversight Committee continued their Nazi comparisons during Thursday's hearing.
When you compare the old films of the Gestapo grabbing people off the streets of Poland, and you compare them to those nondescript thugs who grabbed that student, that graduate student, it does look like a Gestapo operation. You know, my dad served in Second World War. He fought the Nazis in Northern Africa. He fought the Nazis on the Italian peninsula. And I think he's looking down right now and he's happy that I'm fighting today's Nazis.
Because if we just roll this clock on the wall back 75 years, we'd be looking at a time in Nazi Germany where people ran around with signs like this new ICE sign that says, "Report all foreign invaders to ICE," with Uncle Sam there holding up the sign. This could have been a Gestapo member 75 years ago. "Report all Jews."
The ICE sign he held up is genuine and was posted on social media by the Department of Homeland Security on June 11th. Republicans took serious issue with the Nazi comparisons.
You're calling ICE agents modern-day Nazis. Given the attacks on ICE agents that took place in Los Angeles over the weekend, don't you regard your dangerous, inflammatory rhetoric as a problem?
Governor, do you and other Democrat politicians understand why referencing ICE as Gestapo is offensive? I'm going to explain. The Department of Homeland Security is reporting that ICE agents are now experiencing a 413% rise in assaults.
The Department of Homeland Security and FBI are in the process of investigating and arresting individuals who are accused of assaulting federal officers.
Who's gathered overnight for a vigil and march to honor the woman killed, 37-year-old mother Renee Good. In a statement, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, or BCA, says it reluctantly withdrew from the investigation after the FBI refused to allow state investigators access to case materials, scene evidence, or investigative interviews. The case was originally meant to be a joint investigation. Minnesota's Attorney General told CNN the move is deeply concerning. Governor Tim Walz also voiced serious concerns after state officials were removed from the case.
I think it's clear to everyone as they saw this that it feels now that Minnesota has been taken out of the investigation. It feels very, very difficult that we will get a fair outcome. And I say that only because people in positions of power have already passed judgment, from the president to the vice president to Kristi Noem, have stood and told you things that are verifiably false, verifiably inaccurate.
The Department of Homeland Security is also conducting its own review, which is standard in use of force cases. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said publicly Thursday that the shooting was justified. President Trump also posted a video on Truth Social claiming the ICE officer was run over by, quote, the woman driving the car, though the video does not show that. And he said the shooting appeared to be self-defense. Vice President J.D. Vance went further, blaming Renee Good, who is now dead.
I can believe that her death is a tragedy while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe, against our law enforcement officers. Look, there's a part of me that feels very, very sad for this woman, not just because she lost her life, but because I think she is a victim of left-wing ideology. What young mother shows up and decides they're going to throw their car in front of ICE officers who are enforcing legitimate law.
Meanwhile, we're learning more about the ICE officer involved in the shooting. In a social media post, DHS said the officer was involved in an incident last June where he suffered severe injuries after being dragged by a vehicle while attempting to apprehend a suspect accused of sexual crimes against a child. Court records identify the officer as Jonathan Ross, who has been working with ICE in Minnesota since at least 2017. And there is growing outrage this morning after U.S. Border Patrol shot 2 people during a targeted stop in Portland, Oregon. Homeland Security says the 2 people are allegedly connected with the Tren de Aragua gang. Officials say the passenger, not the driver, was the target of the stop. In a statement, DHS said that when agents identified themselves, the driver weaponized his vehicle and tried to run over the agents. Homeland Security calling the shooting an act of self-defense. The Oregon Attorney General is now launching an investigation, vowing to examine whether any federal agent acted outside the scope of their lawful authority and to refer criminal charges if warranted. Overnight, hundreds of protesters gathered at ICE's Portland headquarters. The mayor and city council calling on ICE to end all operations in the city, at least until a full and independent investigation is complete.
Portland is not a training ground for militarized agents. When the administration talks about using full force, we are seeing what it means on our streets. The consequences are not abstract. They are felt in hospital rooms and living rooms, in the quiet moments when families try to make sense of what happened, what is happening. We know what the federal government says happened here. There was a time when we could take them at their word. That time is long past. That is why we are calling on ICE to halt all operations in Portland until a full and independent investigation can take place.
Portland has been a flashpoint in the Trump administration's immigration crackdown for months. Back in September, hundreds of National Guard troops were deployed to the city, sent in.
What we are seeing right now is not normal immigration enforcement. We are not asking ICE not to do ICE things.
We've come together and we're here to announce a lawsuit we're filing against the United States Department of Homeland Security to end the unlawful, unprecedented surge of the federal law enforcement agents into Minnesota. Because this has to stop. It just has to stop. We allege that the obvious targeting of Minnesota for our diversity, for our democracy, and our differences of opinion with the federal government is a violation of the Constitution and of federal law. We ask the courts to end the DHS unlawful behavior in our state. The intimidation, the threats, the violence. We ask the courts to end the tactics on our places of worship, our schools, our courts, our marketplaces, our hospitals, and even funeral homes. The deployment of thousands of armed, mass DHS agents to Minnesota has done our state serious harm. This is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities and Minnesota, and it must stop. DHS agents have sown chaos and terror across the metropolitan area and in cities across the state of Minnesota. And I can tell you how many people who've called me and said, I am afraid to go to work. And I'm not talking about people who are non-citizens. I'm saying citizens. Because when a woman like Renee Good gets shot down, then everybody, citizens, non-citizens, are terrified.
What we are seeing right now is not normal immigration enforcement. We are not asking ICE not to do ICE things. We are asking this federal government to stop the unconstitutional conduct that is invading our streets each and every day. You've seen the videos. At times, there are as many as 50 agents arresting one person. The scale is wildly disproportionate and has nothing to do with keeping people safe. We don't use the word invasion lightly. What we are seeing is thousands, plural, thousands of federal agents coming into our city. And yeah, they're having a tremendous impact on day-to-day life. And it's a negative. And whether that's kids that are trying to get to school or businesses that are trying to open, that's police officers that are responding to 911 calls. It's just about being able to conduct daily life right here in our city. And look, this is not about fraud. When you have a fraudster, you investigate, you charge, you prosecute, You hold the person accountable, and then they get put in jail as an individual. They get put in jail as an individual. You do not hold an entire community or an entire city accountable for the actions of the fraudsters.
Never before, since Jamestown and Plymouth Rock, has our American civilization been in such danger as now. Frankly and definitely, there is danger ahead. Danger against which we must prepare. But we well know that we cannot escape danger or the fear of it by crawling into bed and pulling the covers over our heads.